everybody. This transmission is to be made on the dog wave spell, which is very much about how we can enter into a right vibration to be with our soul tribe and to go further into the heart space to conduct our life, because that's really what it's all about. And we're going to discuss a lot more about that in the tutorial. And I have made in past a little white dog transmission, so you have that with some information in it. I wanted to talk a little bit today about self energy, which you may know as something different or with a different name. Self energy comes from the modality. It's kind of a semi-shamanic psychotherapeutic modality called internal family systems, which isn't actually about our mums and our dads, although they may come up. It's about the families of parts that we've got inside us. And the main foundation of holding a space for a client or anybody when we work with internal family systems is to be in self energy. And what is found is that when we can maintain really strong self energy for another person's parts, or when we can have strong self energy for our own parts, actually it creates the right environment for an upgrade for parts that are in our system that might seem at points to be dissonant to our bigger, more altruistic way of, or perceived way that we wish to be. So I will probably forget some, but in essence, self energy has lots of C's attached to it: compassion, care or caring, calm, creative, curious, confident, curious. I know I was get one, miss one, but you get the general gist. So when we are able to be like that with other people, it means that we are creating an environment for the highest upgrade for them. So this is a really, really imperative thing as practitioners, but as people stepping up. When we are not in self energy, it's quite likely that we are blended with parts. And parts we're going to discuss at different junctures throughout the course, but parts come in like we have the protectors or the soother parts, which are more like firefighters, the ones that get the chocolate or alcohol out. And parts have been drafted in usually because of a trauma, and we have exiles that are locked, that are frozen in time. I believe I've spoken about this earlier, but I wanted to just speak to you about this vibration of coming more into self energy and realizing when we're not in self energy, because we're talking about how do we go through a dimensional shift as practitioners and communities, and a lot of this fundamentally boils down to maintaining and stepping into self energy more, because what happens is we will bring in more harmonious relationships. We will think from the heart neurons and not the head, because often we have these figuring out parts which are managers, which might be coming from a place of lack. So they might be like, oh, or they might be trying to soothe. They might be thinking, oh, we're getting near a trauma when there was like a trauma before when I didn't have enough money. So parts are acting out, and actually sometimes that can actually mean that we're not making good business decisions. So I've noticed, and I know I used to do it, I used to be like, be running on adrenaline, and half the world is running on coffee and sugar, and there is a seeming epidemic in the concept that we're supposed to be running on nervous energy in order to do business, and actually it's probably the wrong way around, because this just means that we're going to make silly, hasty decisions, and they're coming from parts rather than self energy. When we can sit in self energy and be with that, with our own parts and with other people's, A, we're going to have better harmonious relationships and work, and B, we're going to just go into things in a more cruisy way. So I wanted you to tune in to self energy and look at when you're in self energy and start to begin to think about cultivating that daily. because this is going to help you to make informed decisions as to who you're going to work with. And it's like often when we're going to work with people, if we're in a process of self-discovery, we might get triggered by people because they're medicine to us, okay? And that behavior is a medicine if we choose for it. So we kind of want to say, okay, when I'm around this person, this behavior triggers me. But if we're around somebody whose behavior is constantly toxic to our whole way of being, then we might want to evaluate that. So, um, this will help us to discern, do I always feel really tired when I'm around this person? Do I always leave feeling awful? If sometimes we have these bits where we're like, whoa, I've just gone back into my wounded 5-year old, sometimes we've got a really good reason to be working with that person. But the mindful thing is, how can we work beyond that, and how can we own when a part is up? And later on, when we come into the wind wave spell, we're going to be looking at how we're going to start compassionately and mindfully communicate with each other better so that we can step up all our relations. Because I see that most businesses around the world are not operated from self energy. And this is, everything's about the head and the ego and the competition. And I've said this enough times here, but actually, we can, when we work with self energy and we're really actively engaging with the people that we work with, we're going to get further. So I just wanted you to engage with what is self. It's a little short transmission because there are quite a lot on this week, but hope you can start to tune in on that, and we will discuss it more in the future weeks. I just wanted you to know now. Okay? Lots of love. See you soon. Ciao, ciao.